Hello all, Rick here. Episode 3 of Discovery continued the chase and added some more context and background lore to the tale, so let's review and assess it. So, as suspected, Velik, the Romulan scientist, was involved in a cross-faction project to research the finds of the USS Enterprise from 2369. It's a good choice to pick up that narrative, as it now becomes one less event of the week that Star Trek swept under the rug. We also get a time frame on their work, as it sounds like he and 5 other scientists, one of which was the Federation Trill Jinaal, continued to decipher all the compiled data from the original Discovery. The fact that this was a multi-species project is very in keeping with the wishes of the Progenitors, who initially left the message in the hopes that it would be uncovered when enough of their creations were working together. However, this is not how it unfolded in TNG's The Chase, which I always found ironic, considering the message literally says, "It was our hope that you would come together in fellowship and companionship to see this message." Yeah, not quite, oh ancient and wise god aliens. Either way, some at least did continue the work. However, the Dominion War began to rage between 2372 and 75, just as they were making headway, which threw a crimp into the scientists' plans. They uncovered and tracked down a relic of the Progenitors technology, a device that Apocrypha states would be around 3.8 billion years old. Whatever it was apparently the technology used to create the humanoid forms of many species, which we know was then seeded into the organic matter of thousands of worlds to evolve into a common shape. Later in the episode, Stamets theorises that this power could be used to shape evolution, rewrite genetics, build a new species, and possibly even reverse death, the very power of creating life. Back in 2375, however, the Dominion War raises its ugly head, and the science team researching this is deeply affected by it. After they discover the location of this technology, they activate it and one of their team dies. I assume they did not do it correctly then. Either way, they make the decision that now is really not the time to share such powerful science with anyone, not even the Federation, which is fair enough. Imagine what Section 31 would have done with it. So, they instead hide it, but much like the Progenitors before them, they leave clues to its discovery and adamantly choose to defend the path to uncovering it. It is for this reason that Jinaal Bix, at the very least, wants to evaluate those who would uncover it, in hopes that they would be a peaceful people. So, on to Jinaal. The Trill was embodied by Dr. Culber, through the Jantara ritual. This is something we have seen before, and known as the Rite of Closure, and something that every host will go through to meet the personalities that now make them up. In this case, it was used to commune with Jinaal for a few hours, who takes the time to relish being alive again. I was expecting it to go a little more creepy or selfish than it did, but no, he is content remaining as part of the Bix Symbiont, if enjoying the excursion. It was fun to see Wilson Cruz take on a different laid-back persona with a carefree attitude. The fact that Jinaal was willing to simply lead someone to their deaths was evident of the differences between him and Culber, but also one born of duty. I also like the added drop that he does not know the coordinates exactly because he deliberately avoided it, instead simply walking to the location. I do think it was a bit of a risk to simply lead them to an enclosure of predators. What if they'd moved on? It's been 800 years after all. Additionally, after he finds Burnham and Book worthy, as they choose to protect the creatures, he produces the map shard from under a rock? Was that always there, or did he stash it in case they returned? I certainly hope that was not always there, that is far too insecure. Basically, although I enjoyed the setup, the lessons, Jinaal, and the trial aspect of it, the execution seemed a little convenient. I suppose you can always say that Jinaal maintained an eye on the habitat through future hosts, but they were unaware of the data itself. Not impossible, just noticeably fortuitous, which is the second time this has happened already, following on from the twins' moon's shadows being just at the right day from the previous episode. In other points, Book and Burnham seem to be rediscovering their teamwork a little more, still not quite there, but they are working better. Adira and Gray have a sentimental chat, with the two dancing around the topic of breaking up until it becomes clear that they cannot maintain a relationship on their current career trajectories. And that is a sad but understandable split. Outside of this, the episode focuses on Saru and Rayner's journeys. Saru is told that his marriage to Tarina might give fuel to the political machinations of Vulcan purists, which I find troubling to still be a thing in the Vulcan populace. I guess the burn really did send them back a few centuries, didn't it? Even after the successful reunification of their peoples. I enjoyed Tarina's no-nonsense approach to Saru attempting to voice his concerns without addressing them. She makes it very clear that she has considered all the possibilities and chosen to marry him regardless, and once more, I'm happy this was resolved within the episode. Damn it, Saru, accept the win. Commander Rayner meeting the crew was funny to watch unfold, and him being paired with Tilly was fantastic. You could not find a more opposed duo on the ship. I enjoy her character, but I found it funny to watch her butt heads with him and his style of command, especially when she asked to speak freely and then launched into her rebuttal anyway. I literally called that he did not grant her permission, and then he goes and states that to her. When he calls in the crew meetings that Burnham has ordered, his 20 words or less approach leads to some great scenes with the cast, especially Reno's. I can imagine those two actually getting along. Rayner has clearly made an effort to familiarise himself with his new crew as best he can, but he's very much the new outsider stepping into a group that is more like a family. That being said, I think the crew for the most part is receptive to new members, but he is preoccupied with the mission. I think both Tilly and Rayner are at fault here, but mostly Rayner's attitude, as his technique does come across as dismissive. Still, as with the scene at the end of episode 2, which showed his regrets, he approaches Tilly at the end of the episode and talks with her on the matter before departing alone. The whole thing about connection being a choice was the tone of the show, and I feel that's only half right, really. Sometimes connection is as simple as choosing to try to connect, but sometimes that's just not how it works. You need reciprocation, and it's not easily doable for everyone. You cannot befriend someone just because you want to, and I think Rayner is set in his ways and it will take some time to integrate. The episode ends with them mapping a course to Zenkethi's space next, and I find myself anxious to see this species in canon. If we actually will at all. They have only been depicted in Apocrypha in very different appearances, bioluminescent fluid humanoids, or massive lumbering four-armed lizard people. Overall, this episode thematically was a good one, with a clear theme of establishing connections and understanding between people, from Saru's marriage, Adira's breakup, between Burnham and Book, between them and the creatures, and Rayner. Using Trill as a backdrop for this episode adds to that theme too. Connection's very important to them, obviously. The only issue I have is the contrivances of the plot are a little too noticeable for me, and I hope it's not going to be a continuing theme. Thanks for watching this review of episode 3, Jinaal. I have been Rick, and I'll see you later for another video. Until then, goodbye.